Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Let me put my focus mode on here. All right, we're good to go. Happy New
Focus
Year.
goggles. Happy New Year.
How are you? Where in the world are you right now?
I'm in LA.
In LA, the Playa
Yeah,
Vista.
in Playa Vista, and it's literally been raining for like 2 or 3 weeks at this point. It
It's
feels like the
crazy.
Mumbai monsoon. I feel like I'm back in Mumbai.
I've heard that. I'm working with a couple people right now, and a couple of them are in Southern California, and it's just weird weather. Like great to have the rain to stop the fires from happening, but then you have like a different problem. It's like this weird scale balance thing with
Yeah.
California and the weather. So hopefully things are okay. We were there during the fires a couple years ago. I think it was 2019. I remember walking out the front door and it was just soot everywhere. I mean, it was wild.
Were you there for the Santa Barbara fires in 29 in like oh no, that was like 2017. That was a little
Yeah,
earlier
it was a
actually.
little earlier.
I
Yeah.
was like literally like in that. Like I was at my friend's place and I like walked out and literally we just saw the mountain like fire just coming towards us. It was so crazy.
It's really scary.
But it's like powerful to like be able to witness nature like that sometimes
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than just like seeing it on TV. But
We are certainly tiny specks of dust on the
yeah.
surface of a very live organism, and it'll throw us off if we don't treat it right. So, hey, cheers to water,
Cheers. I
clean,
also
clean water.
like I took out my pretty glass for
It's nice. It's got the prism effect. You got the whole
yeah.
rainbow going. Yeah, that's nice. So, you got some rest. How's the new year starting for you so far this year?
By the way, like, is this already started or are we starting?
Yeah, we're in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's as organic as it comes. I mean, it's gonna be like every other time we've talked. There's no difference.
Okay, usually people are like, okay, let's start. That's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah, there's no difference. There's no masks here. This is mask off zone.
Yeah, it's just like an organic creation of life.
Yeah. Like there should
Yeah.
be no difference between work and play. It's like we're all just humans at the end of the day. And dogs,
Yeah.
animals, machines. I don't know. I'm sure there's machines listening in at some point.
That's really funny actually because like we'll just be talking about random things for a long time and then like eventually getting to the thing.
Yeah, it's just how life goes. I mean, that's
It's true.
that's just cultural differences too. Like in some parts of the world, it's years, months, weeks of getting to know each other, and then we might chat business. And in America, like especially New York, it's just like, let's go. Like, what do we? How are you? Fine. All right. Anyways,
Yeah. In a
it's
way,
so
it's
funny.
cool because I feel like in our culture, like things happen, like
Mhm.
we really like things just move because, I did spend some time in other places where it takes longer to build those relationships and it can
Yeah.
just be like, um, but it's really cool kind of bringing that relationship building into life here because it makes everything so much easier and also more fun and more meaningful.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true.
Do you want to
Well,
do a grounding breath?
yes, I do. This is like one of my favorite things that you're the only one of the only people that has acclimatized me to this in a meeting in a Zoom call. And I think it's so great and important. So how much better would it be to do it as part of a podcast episode too, which you don't see a lot of. So yeah, let's do it.
And you know what's so cool about a ground? So I'll like explain it. So
Yeah.
basically, it's like you're coming into your heart, right? It's like
Mhm.
your mental chatter is quieting down, and it's like we're clearing the energy from past calls or like past interactions that day. And so
Mhm.
when I'm working with clients or even just like potential partners, whoever, it's like almost like we've gone into a conference room like at the office we work at, and it's like it's a special space. It's just like the for that relationship to flourish. And I've been thinking about like it would be so cool because I think about like what does new paradigm organizations look like? And I think that if people can take a second to sit in a circle and take a breath together, like in teams, I feel like it would do a lot for team dynamics and relationships as well, because again, it's like taking off the mask and relating to each other at a more heart level,
Yeah.
which would
Yeah.
be
I
really
agree.
cool, I
I
think,
agree.
in the
I mean,
future
it's
for new
worth,
organizations.
yeah, it's worth a shot. The world's so crazy as it is. Like, why not try a new experiment, you know? Like taking a breath, is that really going to hurt us? Of course not. So let's do it. Yeah.
So let's just close our eyes and just take a nice deep breath into your heart space. And whenever you feel grounded, we can open our eyes.
Takes it down a notch, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I sometimes say in my mind is I'm like, let this be of like the most value to both of the people and like in this case and for the audience, because then there's like a centering effect of like only the things that are of value will be exchanged and like it's cool.
I love that. I mean, that is the essence of business is creating value in the marketplace. And what's a bigger marketplace than the internet? So it's a great intention for professional calls, I think.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
and beyond. And beyond. So yeah, I'd love to hear. I mean, I know you've got a couple projects going on, and I'd love to hear sort of the origin story of how you got there. And you know, you can go back as far or skip as as fast through time as you want to. But I've started doing this now, and I think it's really interesting because you see the slope of the line and people's story arcs over time and how they sort of got to where they are now. And I think it just humanizes us a lot more. So I'd love to hear. I mean, I know you've shared a little bit with me in the past, but hear more about your story and how you got to sort of the project you're working on now. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so basically, I've been in the social enterprise space for like, I want to say like 13 years. So I graduated from the University of Michigan in 2009. And I almost just like went straight into the impact slash by, through business space. I was a Kiva fellow. And so that's a micro lending platform, and they work with low-income women entrepreneurs all over the world and give them microloans through their microfinance institutions. And so I was in Bolivia. And so I was literally like in the Andes, kind of like riding around on the backs of loan officers, like motorcycles, like going to slums and villages and interviewing like these indigenous women. And in Spanish. So like my first job was like 100% in Spanish. I'm fluent in Spanish. And it was just the craziest introduction to work life. I was 21, right? That was my first job and like my first real job. And at the same time kind of looking at the processes inside the microfinance institution and like where can that be improved, and literally just being by myself like in this foreign country and work culture, and capturing these stories and putting them online for lenders to see from all over the world. And I think there was like a few things that happened there. Was like when I did my 1 week training at the Kiva office in San Francisco, I was like, wow, there's this group of like extremely intelligent, like quality, like people who are also have these visions to change the world and this heart to change the world. And that's something like I hadn't seen that in the NGO sector or in the private sector. So I was like, this is a really powerful confluence. And San Francisco was the hub of the social impact space, the last like 20 years.
Mm.
And feeling like we can finally use our brains, our like all of our life of like overachieving and trying so hard to be have excellence in what we do, but actually use that to change the world, you know? Um, and so, and then the other cool thing was that I was by myself in this foreign country doing this work as a 21-year-old. And so that required me to have so much huge autonomy, and it's almost like entrepreneurial skills, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do
Yeah.
I figure out what needs to be done, create those relationships and those bridges across my organization and their organization, and build that trust in
Yeah.
only 3 months and implement those changes, which was not easy because even there's like politics, there's inertia, and who is this like random American girl, like 21-year-old girl, like they've like sent from America to tell us how to do our work, right?
Trying to speak Spanish at the same time.
Yeah. And luckily, like I had done that already because I like studied abroad in Mexico and Chile in college. So I was good on that front. But yeah.
So
And
on the microfinance piece, was there like an interesting takeaway? I mean, you're riding around on these scooters essentially and going, I mean, can you describe the environment that you were in? Like
so
what was it
basically,
like walking
microfinance
up and meeting these
institution
people?
is like a bank for the poor.
Hmm.
And these bank locations are usually like, we're literally in the Andes, right? So this is an indigenous country, 80% indigenous. It's mountainous, like part of it is mountainous, part of it is rainforest. And these bank locations are in the middle of the communities that they serve.
Hmm.
Um, but the places where these borrowers live could be like super far even from the bank branches.
Hmm.
So inside the office, you're like looking at loan applications, they're vetting people and stuff, but then to actually go to the borrower's site, to their homes, where the women have created circles, and so they have groups of women that have come together to access a loan amount. So they don't have, they can't leave their places. So we go to them, we go to their
Hmm.
homes, and we usually will sit like inside their house. They'll like offer us Coke. Coke is like really has done a good job in Bolivia, which is really sad. But it's like almost like an honor. You're a guest, so we won't give you water, we'll give you Coke. And then I had to drink it. I don't even drink pop. But like, I don't, to be respectful, I had to drink it, and I'm like, oh God, like I'm drinking so much Coke. But like, and then you interview them, and you like, and then I, would take my notes, and then later I would turn that into stories and put it online.
Yeah, Coca-Cola is a brand known throughout the world. I mean, that's why Warren Buffett invested in it. I mean, it is like a fundamental infrastructure of the world. But I'm curious though, so it's indigenous people. So I mean, that feels like a big hurdle to be like, hey, you're gonna want this like weird money thing that we developed. And like, did they have the concept of this? Like, it seems like a lot of objections are like, why do I even care in my normal life? Or did you have to translate it into, this is how
Yeah,
we get grain or water or food or what, or
yeah.
how has that translation occurred into the banking system? I mean, that's a big jump.
Microfinance started in India. Actually, it started in Bangladesh,
Hmm.
and then it really grew in India as well. It started by Muhammad Yunus, Grameen Bank, and so there's history on this about how he experimented with the group lending model and educated them and like helped them access loans for their micro businesses, and then microfinance grew all around the developing world. And so when these institutions went in, so the loan officers have built like personal relationships with all of the borrowers. And so there's a lot of trust built over like decades of them really working with those communities.
Got it. Yeah, a long
Yeah.
time. So they already kind of took them on the journey of why it's needed, what you can do with it, how you use it, like what debt is and interest is, and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Well, what happened next?
Yeah, so then I came back. I was a business case writer at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. So
Mhm.
I was actually like high level writing academic case studies on all various companies that and like so coordinating with business school professors and company execs to
Mhm.
write these like I mean any I don't know like you know like the B school cases like the Harvard style like case studies and so it's like around a specific issue the company is facing and this allowed me to kind of gain this like high level view of what's happening in business and how it works um and so I did that for and so then basically I kind of reached the point where I was like I want to be in the field working with social innovators rather than being in academia writing cases about people who are in the field doing the work and there's like entrepreneurial challenges on the ground which aren't captured in you know just in like case studies
Right.
and so I was like, I'm gonna book a one-way ticket. I'm gonna go to either India. I'm either gonna go to Mumbai or Nairobi, was what I thought, because there was just a lot of social innovation action happening in both places. And I ended up getting a one-year Vilgro fellowship. So Vilgro is the biggest social enterprise incubator in India, and they're based in Chennai. And so, and it was really funny because like the timing of the fellowship was exactly when I said that I would quit my job and go. And so it just all lined up. And so I moved to India. I did my one-year fellowship at the incubator. So I was like, and I actually ended up like literally designing and conceptualizing and launching an early stage accelerator program for them. And so that was really
Mm.
cool because basically built like a huge network of early stage impact investors across India, like executives, mentors. I brought in IDEO, Stanford D School, like GSBI from Santa Clara University. So we had people flying in from Silicon Valley and just like basically brought together all these amazing resources to help these entrepreneurs who had solutions for the base of the pyramid.
Mm.
So base of the pyramid being defined as like, you know, urban or rural poor. And so they had education solutions, energy solutions, agriculture, again, microfinance, healthcare, you know. And so they're creating these services and products, but they're really tailoring it in terms of affordability, in terms of distribution and product market fit for the bottom segment of the population, which has been not had access to these things.
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's a lot. How did it I mean, that's pretty crazy that you could get, I guess, the caliber, you could almost call it tier one caliber talent coming from sort of the dead center of technology industry in Silicon Valley. I mean,
And
obviously
in
there's
India,
hotheads
which has
everywhere.
its own like top
Yeah.
tier talent as well.
And India, and then getting them all focused on this. What do you think was the primary driver of that? Was it just humanitarian goodwill? Do you think there was some capitalism in there involved as well because of the sheer scale of this and like a combination of both? Or what did you feel from the group that was there?
There's like this, and you've probably, I don't know if like you notice this sometimes in pitch competitions
Mhm.
where there's a lot of like investors and founders, and
Mhm.
no, like everyone's investor or founder, right? There's this buzz, like
Yeah.
this like low level electricity where everyone's just like, what's gonna happen next? Like, how do we solve this?
Yeah.
Like being on the edge of your seat. And that's really when I fell in love with the startup space because everyone is on
Yeah.
everyone is on, like all systems firing. Like, how do I help? How do we make this happen? What's up with this business model? What's going on with this customer segment? Tell me about your product, right? And
Yeah.
so they're meeting the founders where they're at, which is so
Mhm.
exciting because founders generally don't get met where they're at, like
Right.
by people who don't have like that driver's seat mentality, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's what it takes to be a founder. You need to have buckets of energy and drive and grit. And it's like I've often heard that grit is the thing that separates success from not. It's just like you keep going no matter what. Like the only way you can be stopped is if you're dead. Like that's literally the only way that I'm stopping.
And it's
So,
like, yeah, they're literally coming from this really, really tough situation, which is like, how do we create this product to scale and reach millions of people across
Yeah.
India who are in hard to reach locations and hard to educate and hard to blah blah everything. Um,
Yeah.
but what's cool is like they're coming in, like, like being a founder is hard and it's stressful and everything. But like coming into the accelerator, it's like the last thing you want is people telling you, like, here's your homework for today, or like, here's what you have to do now in
Yeah.
addition to your work, right? And so that's where I did my accelerator model a little. I studied all the accelerator models, I listened to founders, and I built something that would integrate into their immediate pressing concerns.
Yeah.
Um, and not treat them like children, which is what a lot of these ecosystems inadvertently do because
Mhm.
they're based off of our school system, which is, you know, a different conversation.
So what did you find? So it sounds like you studied and went deep on all the different accelerators, their methods, their processes, etc. What did you find that was like the key point of differentiation that you were like, actually, this piece is broken? Or was it just a smattering of things across the board that you just kind of like picked and put together?
One core KPI. Um, let's get you funded. Like if you're going through this program, like you should raise capital coming out of the program.
Right.
And that seems kind of hard. Like it doesn't feel like, I'm talking about all of the soft stuff, right?
Yeah.
But when we centralize on the one core, and you love this because you're a product person, but like when we centralize on, like, you call it the North Star, but when we centralize on that, but then you actually have to create a design that supports the humans towards that, right?
Mhm.
So then I had to create a design that created strong non-hierarchical relationships between the mentors and the founders and the investors. And I had to
Mhm.
create spaces that felt safe
Yeah.
where they could continue. And then they had to have consistency and like interacting and like all of these things, and had to come into, and then I had to have an eye on like the business model development of each of the founders and their like venture stuff so that I could make sure the right people were coming in at the right time as they went through their own roadmap,
Yeah.
of like success. And so there's a lot of like systems then that can come in to support that goal, that holistic goal.
Yeah, we talked about this in the past, but I mean, the word you said it there, it was system design and system architecture is like really what I'm hearing from you because there's a lot of complexity in there and it just feels like a matrix of connections and complexity and like how did you go from this amorphous idea into something more tangible? Like, did you map it out on a piece of paper? Did you create a spreadsheet, or was it just go and just
Um,
go and start connecting and having conversations, or a combination thereof of all the
yeah.
above?
So I think I'm like an INFJ, I want to say, like according to Myers-Briggs. So I
Okay.
don't know. I think the category that I'm in is I'm the most extroverted introvert. Um,
Okay. Well,
so
there's a woman divided cannot stand. Yeah.
well, it's funny because I always touch in with my inner world first. I
Hmm.
know there's a lot of entrepreneurs that just go and just like throw spaghetti at the wall,
Yeah.
but I'm really, really, really intentional.
Mm.
And then I throw spaghetti at the wall. Um, and I use like colors. So I'll like put like whiteboard or papers, and I'll like map it visually. I'll use
Mm.
colors. I'll like do all that brainstorming, and I'll get it to where I'm like, I call it vision crystallization when I'm working with founders. It's like,
Yeah.
is this crystallized enough? And then do I have a value statement for the actual stakeholders I'm reaching out to?
Hmm.
So it's like big vision. And then it's like individually for each stakeholder group, like what am I offering and then what are they getting? And
Yes.
then being super clear on that when I'm starting the conversations. And then the last step is then I call it methods, like a vision value method.
Mhm.
And then method is the logistics and just like doing the thing. And like, and for founder, that's like product or service.
Right.
And then I actually like teach founders this now in my accelerator.
Yeah. It's so funny because it's the stuff you just talked about is like fundamentals. And in the sports language, it's like blocking and tackling or like learning how to dribble a basketball. But what you described is like pure fundamentals. And I feel like there's just been so many blog posts and videos and podcasts and like how to start a startup over the last 20 years. And I feel like part of that has just gotten away from just core fundamentals like what are you building? Who buys it? From whom? Why? And for how much? And like, if you can't answer those basic questions, like people are just going crazy and trying to build product and like talking to a bunch of people. And it's like, well, you just don't have the answers to the fundamental stuff. So it makes a lot of sense why just pausing, like the intentional take a breath, let's sit down, let's map this out. But I would love to see like a screenshot or a picture of your board with all the red strings and like the colors. I would love to see that. That'd be
Oh my God,
super,
so many colors. And I
yeah.
felt like it's almost like I get back to like being in second grade and just like I used to like write stories and like
Mhm,
and and it's like sometimes we lose that because we think we have to be really serious and like
mhm,
but I think it's so key to keep that lightness in
mhm.
in our work. I have like this literally
Oh, do you have one?
like
Oh yeah.
you see this? Like this is what I use. Like
I love that. I worked with a designer recently in the last couple of years, and she would take notes, like handwritten notes, and she had different colors that meant different things. So if you looked at her notebook, I mean, it just looks like rainbow, but for her, it was the system. So I completely get it. If you color code that and then you can just focus on one thing, and it's
and
really
just bring joy
interesting.
into it. Like if it's
Yeah.
not fun, you don't have the energy to do it. There's no
Mhm.
inclination to do it, you know?
So true. There should be no difference between work and play. I mean, I think this stuff we do, like, I think business is like the ultimate never ending video game. It's like a RPG for folks in the gaming space. And it's an infinite game and it matters how you play the game, not just the high score, because your high score today may not work well for you tomorrow. So that's core values. And so you better be careful about that stuff.
I
So
think
yeah, I
that
think it's
because
good.
there's like there's highs and lows, right? You're going like this and
Mhm,
like you need a stable foundation in your heart. Like you need your system, your body needs to be so grounded and regulated and like no matter if it's like the highest high or the lowest low, because
mhm.
otherwise it's not, it's it's not gonna work.
Yeah. This too shall pass is one of my favorite quotes. Like feeling excellent, this too shall pass. Feeling down, this too shall pass. Yeah,
Oh.
the journey of the entrepreneur or just the person off doing their own thing is a roller coaster. And so that grounding you talked about is like tempering that wobble so you don't get seasick. Because it can make the best of us seasick. I mean, I've been in this game for a long, long time and I still get seasick from time to time. So, yeah, I think regular life helps. Trees helps me, nature, dogs, good people, good food, clean water. That stuff helps regulate the ups and downs.
Yeah. So with founders, basically, I help women claim their big vision for humanity. And
Mhm.
for feminine, like I feel like for feminine founders, particularly, being so connected to why you're doing it, but and then not feeling like you have to get validation from the ecosystem, but just being like genuinely excited to change the world and like staying rooted in that is the grounding force for a lot of the founders I work with. And it's so hard because then, you're going out into the ecosystem and you're getting 500 pieces of feedback. And so then it's like helping them sort like what's aligned to your vision and what's not, you know.
Agreed. I mean, it sounds like that's a good segue to talk about like the niche you carved out for your fund, because I mean, that's the thing that really stood out to me as like a key differentiator, not just from a deal flow perspective, but in an underserved population of the market. And I just can't help but think that there's a lot of value and alpha in that. So yeah, please share, like, how did you, I mean, how did
Yeah.
you get to the niche you got into?
Yeah. So we're not yet to the spiciest part of my story, which was after the accelerator. So we had a 75% success rate and then raising money, our KPI.
Yeah,
The Rockefeller Foundation came in and put in money to scale that program. I left the accelerator and I started a sex education company,
that's the
which is
spice.
so crazy because this has not been done in thousands of years in India. And like it's led to all of these gender issues and social issues. And it's this huge taboo and you can't talk about it. And I'm like, it's so obvious to me that if we get to the systemic root of the problem and educate kids about gender and sexuality in a positive, respectful, empathetic way, like we can change their attitudes and behaviors and create new adults.
Yeah.
And so that was my system solution. And like, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because this is like just a crazy journey. But I built this whole curriculum that facilitators could use to run in schools. And again, it had to be like really lightweight for the teachers to use because even the teachers didn't know what sex ed was and had never had it. And it was play based, it was all game based. It was like role plays and fun videos and just like completely game based. And the goal was behavioral change in the students. So that was my core North Star KPI, which we were achieving. And we were seeing like entire classrooms go from being so toxic and bullying and like some schools where they have like no education on this and they're like so much harassment. And then after the program, they're like, oh, that class has turned into our most respectful, empathetic class of the whole school. Like, what did you do? And we're like, we opened the box. We talked to them about the thing that nobody else is talking to them about, and that and we taught them about consent. We taught that empathy and respect, and like we empowered them. Like we didn't treat them like babies. Like same thing as accelerators, right?
I mean, that's insane. To be able to cause a human behavior change in an 8th grade class, that's like a challenge on a challenge. Like that's insane. And that's
I'm so
crazy to
glad
me.
you recognize this because we were
That's so
literally
hard.
in India trying to explain to people like what we had created, like the insane, like we were just like, how did we do this? Almost like this was my hypothesis. And like you know, like a product person, I work with hypothesis and testing.
Yeah.
My hypothesis is that if we create an intervention that's taboo free and safe,
Yeah.
with good role models at this particular age, and we intervene and we give this we create this space, then behavioral change will occur and it will last. And so we went and we did impact assessments like months down the road, and their transformations had only gotten better over time. Like it had sunk in even deeper instead of it going away. And then they had started infecting other kids in their community and adults and like started a ripple effect.
Yeah. This was like the movie Inception, where you dropped a perspective shift into a kid's brain at a key moment in their life and created a safe space for real talk that then had I don't even know, 90th percentile retention, and then had a off the charts virality score associated with it. So like the principles that you described in an environment that's so supercharged emotionally, to be able to transition that, I mean, that honestly, if you want my honest opinion, that needs to be taken to Facebook and implemented across 3 billion people on the human population, because that's what's missing in social media, is that concept, what you just described. So
Sean, literally, when I had boys coming up to me and they said, I thought it was right to force a girl to say yes until you came and talked to us. And thank you so much, Didi. They call us
Yeah.
big sister. Thank you for teaching us about consent. I'm
Yeah.
teaching all the boys in the school about consent, and I will never force a girl again.
Yeah.
And like,
Just didn't know any
and
better.
and when you are in India and you're in that context and you're seeing the rape cases just all over the news, right? And like you weren't in this environment, it was a charged environment. So there was a highly publicized rape case that happened in 2013. Millions of people flooded the streets with like grief and anger and frustration. And they're like demanding, so this is where we get back to these like medieval roots. They're like demanding like harsher penalties for rapists and like, you know,
Mhm.
like they're just like castrate them. And it's just like, no, guys, no, like we can create better systems where this
Yeah.
doesn't have to be an issue. And
Right.
that's where I created I Shall Learning, because I was like, first of all, and then the tech people were creating these sorry, like not stupid, but like they were creating just apps that were just like panic buttons that like made noise and like
Yeah.
stuff like that, which is like good for the moment, but it's a band-aid solution.
Hmm.
And so, and I didn't see anyone thinking in this way. And later on, like, so basically in my journey, like fast forward, I scaled this product to 600,000 students across the country in a partnership with the largest corporation in India, which is Tata.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like they're
Yeah.
gigantic.
And like that was so validating for these like men in suits. And it took a
Yeah.
long time. It took like conversations. And then finally they came back and you're like, you know what? We were in our board meeting and we were talking about you, you know, like, oh, that girl who like was, came in and showed us this product. And we were talking about you and we were like, how do we get a competitive edge over the other ed tech behemoths? Like these are
Yeah.
ed tech is huge in India, as you know, it's like huge companies. And they're like, how do we get an edge over them? And they're like, hey, why don't we try that, try the sex education. And that's so crazy because I'm talking about people who don't say the word sex. They've never talked about this before in their lives.
Yeah.
And by interacting with me, they're like, hey, like, there's something else here. And just being received in that way was so beautiful and heartwarming for me to see. And when people say like the world's not going to change, like people don't change, and I'm like, yes, they do.
Yeah.
People change. People can change so fast.
Hmm. I mean, I'm honestly, I think that's the, let me preface this. So I went to the University of Chicago, which is a pretty well-known business school. We wrote all the Harvard case study stuff, like big in finance and econ.
Yeah.
I've been in business for 20 years. What you just described is the single most impactful and best case study I've ever come across or read, bar none, orders of magnitude beyond anything else, because that change is insane. I mean, if you talk about like aggressive, violent rape to all of a sudden, I'm now treating everyone with respect at the moment of change, at the point where they could divert in their path. And then I think that's the reason.
Two roads diverged in the wood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you
Not
got to get
across.
there at that moment and put the right sign up for people. And because I think you just don't know any better. You don't know any different. I've only been exposed to yellow light. And so I don't know there's such a thing as like red light or something. I don't know. I'm using a
Yeah,
weird analogy, but
literally the world that people live in, it's like literally being in a toxic cauldron. It's like mass media, like Bollywood slash Hollywood, like porn, like not good role. I mean, just like there's no way,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to realize like you'll actually do better in life. I mean, respect is one of my core values. Warren Buffett says one of the things that can catapult your career is communication. And I would say yes, and respectful communication. If you treat everybody around you with respect, even those who attempt to do you damage, watch how much faster your star rises in the world. And so just respect. All you're teaching is respect. And like, it's again back to this like core fundamental thing. Like,
We'd have the kids
duh.
yelling like respect like so many times throughout. Like we were like brainwashing them, and then they
Yeah.
would just then they were into it.
I mean, Aretha Franklin, she knows how to write a, sing a song, write a lyric. That song, Respect. Okay, so anyways, more to go on. We've got like 15 minutes left, so we got to finish your story. This is like incredible
Time
stuff.
can be stretched and we can
We can
time
make
is,
it malleable.
yeah, exactly.
Time is an illusion. It's quantum. Everything's quantum.
His breath, this is the craziest thing, is that we think we have to speed up in order to do it in the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when we breathe, we create space and we create time, like the time expands and then we have more of it.
All right, fill it. Fill that expanded universe. You just created a whole new dimension.
And so, like, that's the thing, because when I was a founder, I was running and running and running, burning myself out. And like, just breathe. Like, founders, this is the shift that I create in founders. I'm like, when I was pitching in all these accelerators, all these stuffy people, like literally it was like cloud solution, like this thing, like things that are really, just like masculine, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm like sharing my heart and showcasing these results about sex ed, right? And the container was not set up for that conversation oftentimes, it was like it's limited to like your pitch deck and like your pitch. And I'm like, I'm bringing a vision through me to impact the world. And these spaces don't seem like they're set up to really support me in that. And I know how to make a pitch deck and pitch. I ran an accelerator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the stress, the extra work that's like not related to what you're building and like not feeling seen and received in your vision, like that really started to take a toll on me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm going into a market where I am also not being received most of the times because, in business, like you're 99% rejection because you're trying to shift people's minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about longevity, we have a responsibility as VCs and accelerators not to create more stress for founders.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Truth. Yeah, truth.
And I was on a reality show. And so I was like on this reality show called The Real Deal. So I was like pitching live to like 10 million people across India. I filmed the whole season. It was like the coolest experience of my life. They like put us up in the West End, and then we would just be like shooting TV shows every day. And I was talking about sex ed, and my aunt saw me on TV and she was just like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm on a TV show. And but it's so it's like, it's like embodying my message was cringy. Embodying my message was cringy for me. I was going through a healing journey and breaking my own taboo.
Yeah, interesting.
And so oftentimes the visions that, founders are channeling are there for their own healing as well. So how can you hold that healing and also in the context of your venture trajectory?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned all these lessons. I wanted to bring all of this into the Female Founders Lab. So I came back to California, started the Female Founders Lab, and I started helping pre-seed founders raise capital. Again, I don't know why I take on the most difficult piece of the problem in every industry. I don't know why I do that, but that's what I do. And I'm like, first of all, they're pre-seed. So there's almost no pre-seed funds. It's mostly starts at seed. You need the metrics to get to seed, but it's going to take you a couple of years to get the metrics to get to seed. They're all going to tell you you're too early. So how do you get the capital to get there and not die in the process.
Mhm.
And that was something that I saw time and again. I saw it with female founders and founders of color who were like, they didn't have like money to start with, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you get that first 500K to a million that allows you to validate your idea and access seed capital? And people are like, oh, there's no pipeline. Like, we need more female founders. There's no pipeline. I'm like, dude, they're all stuck at pre-seed.
Mhm.
There's thousands of brilliant founders building system solutions that can transform our industries. And those are the only sorts of founders I work with, is where they have, again, where we're talking about the levers, like what's the lever in the healthcare system that's going to make it transparent and democratic and accessible, and what's the lever in the food system that'll make it regenerative, what's the lever in education that'll allow us to decentralize it and inculcate like new paradigm skills, and
Mhm.
and so these levers are the core root behavioral shift at the human level.
Yeah.
And then at the product level, it's like that core product that just has this multi-layered effect inside the ecosystem. So they're touching multiple stakeholders, right? We're not just thinking about this as a linear model anymore, where it's like, here's a widget, we're going to scale this, we're going to sell toasters and we're going to sell it
Yeah.
like this, and we're going to scale the widgets just by
Mhm.
sheer force, right? This is quantum. So we're saying we have a widget, but the widget is a hexagon and it's touching 6 different people, and each of those sides can be monetized. So this is
Mhm.
a multi-layered value creation. So if each widget is scaling like a normal unicorn would scale, we're not
Mhm.
creating unicorns. We're creating, I think they're calling them dragons, but like
Decacorns.
yeah, we're creating multi-billion dollar
Mhm.
industry shifting enterprises. And what
Mhm.
sort of a VC is going to understand that vision at pre-seed?
Yeah.
None of them. And so these founders are retrofitting their models into what they think the VC wants to see, which is the widget.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
compromising their vision. But what happens when they compromise their vision is that they lose all their confidence. They lose all their
Mhm.
groundedness. They lose the anchoring in their heart of like, this is what I'm trying to do,
Mhm.
right? And when I bring them back to that, I'm like, it's okay to talk about the system
Yeah.
briefly. Like, I help them map the system and then bring it down to the product. And then I say, only invite people into your container or into your fundraise who are willing to receive that, right? And
Mhm.
then they start with being like, is that even possible? That's too idealistic. But once we go through the work and they get so amped and
Mhm.
confident in the storytelling, they're able to find the people who are willing to buy in. And so I've had 2 founders get into Techstars United Healthcare, which has like a
Mhm.
1% acceptance rate, and like at an earlier stage than all the other ventures in the cohort. I've had I've had a founder raise 400K in 4 weeks. I had a founder get tie-ups with Kaiser Permanente in covered California, with like 30 users and like her pipeline, right? And so I help them quantum leap. So I kind of help them get the story, but then the story creates an identity shift that allows them to kind of invite in all of the stakeholders and like go forward.
Yeah. I hear a couple things there. One, one of the major problems, and I've experienced this myself on both sides, is you have to take your vision of this beautiful sunset on an ocean cliff, beautiful water, 3 dimensions, every sense activating, and you got to like write it down with crayons on a piece of 2 dimensional paper and go, don't you want this vision? And they go, it kind of doesn't feel so great. And it's like, well, duh, because I had to put it in a way that you could see it. Because I haven't invented the picture for it yet. And so it's like that one is the big problem. But the other thing that I've heard is you took a population, 2 things. You took a population that hadn't been paid attention to or taken seriously. And that could be, I don't know, pick your poison, right? A population of people from a variety of different dimensions. But the other thing I heard that you talked about was you took that nugget of learning from the behavior change of the 8th grade class at that core, and then are applying that same systems and principles to this population that has been overlooked. And then the third piece that I heard was the new product, and no one's talking about this. And you're right. The new product is not a product and is not a service. It's a system. And people have only started talking about it, but they talk about it as Web3 community. Instead of me broadcasting like radio, we're going to get a group of people and we're going to all have discords. And it's like, that's not really what we're talking about. What I hear you talking about is the definition of what Bucky Fuller talked about when he talked about, if you want to change the existing system, don't beat it up, don't talk bad about it, build a better system that makes it obsolete. And so I hear like 4 things happening simultaneously in your approach to startups, fundraising, venture capital, LPs, the whole thing, the whole community. Did I get that right? Sort of.
No, I'm just like feeling into if there was anything else. I was
Well,
just
the
so
last piece,
excited.
the
I was
last
just
piece.
so excited to hear you reflect that.
Yeah.
Like that, I was just like, and I was drinking it in, and now I'm reflecting on if there was any other pieces. But honestly, like I was just so excited when I met you, because I was just like, oh my God, you get it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just so beautiful. It's so
Well,
beautiful.
I think the last piece that I left out, which was the humanity of it, the human connection, which a lot of people, especially in tech, are too cerebral. And like even in investing, and everyone falls on this. It's like, because the entire internet is cerebral. It's here's text, here's an analysis, here's a Word doc, here's an Excel spreadsheet, here's a PDF, right? And it's like, look at all of our statistics and all of this thing. And it's like, here's our requirements doc and user research study. And it's like, and here's a Figma file with all these user flows. And it's like, how does it make you feel?
You know what? So that 2D piece of paper, the way that we like conquer that is that I teach founders how to invite people into a human relationship.
Yeah.
And it's that relationship where people can feel your vision and are open to giving you the time to explain it fully, where we can get that. That's the toolkit. So if we're going beyond paper and crayons, and we're getting into the multidimensional toolkit of trust, and of receiving someone's full vision and trusting them and letting them lead you into the new paradigm.
Well, I think the other thing that we're not talking about is you need to have spent the time, energy, had the experience to be a human translator for this, because LPs, family offices, endowments, pension funds, they've got bigger fish to fry, right? Like I've got to hit a return threshold over the next 30 years so my pension can be funded via PBGC at 80% or above, yada, yada, yada. And I don't have the time to talk to 1,000 founders and translate vision. So I need someone who does understand all this stuff, i.e. you, that I can invest in, that I'm assured that I'm operating in this market that nobody else is going against, because let's face it, bias in terms of that human population, and 2, lack of understanding, and 3, loss of the fact that you have a heart instead of just the brain. And if you use brain and heart in order to do analysis and connection with markets, then you unlock value creation as you described. And then you're like 100x instead of like, oh, we're returning the fund on 2 to 5x. Like the math gets silly, like the Excel spreadsheet breaks.
And do you know why we're going to do quantum results in 100x and with the heart? Like, let me explain that actually in greater detail. Everyone's like, the world is ending, right? Everyone's like, the world is ending, but no one understands why or what. They don't have a clear vision, unlike I have the vision, right? So yes, the world is ending, but a new one is being born.
Yes, good. Hey, here on that one. Like, yeah, enjoy your fear, but anyways, we're over here. Come on over, it's funner.
Yeah, so when you use your heart, you can actually feel into the pockets where that birth is happening. And then you can use your brain and be like, let's create like sharpness. Let's create the best products and services that are going to service this emerging like shift.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Like all you're really talking about is a tuning fork that you're pointing out into the market, and the vibration of the tuning fork is different than everybody else in order to get on the same wavelength and connect. And that's how you're able to connect. And then you can start to rationalize it. And that's a differentiator because you can see things that other people can't see because you're using different types of lenses on your glasses, for lack of a better analogy. And so you can see an infrared where everyone else is just seeing like color. And you just flip them, and no, the Apple AR glasses aren't going to let you see this any better. Nor is Chat GPT, I think, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating. Okay, so we're about out of time, and I gotta run because I got some other stuff going. But here's the thing I want to ask you in, like, let's say the last 5 minutes is, at the end of all of this, where is your mindset right now? Like, what is the, I don't know how I say this. I don't want to quite put it as like, what is the primary challenge that you're facing, but like, what is the output after struggling through all of these things over and over again? What is maybe the key unlock that you're thinking about, or do you know where I'm headed with this? Like, what's the output of all these inputs that you're getting? Where are you pointed right now? What are you feeling?
Yeah. So basically, we create the design for the new industries. I have a clear design for a holistic, preventative, decentralized healthcare system, education system, food systems, media, entertainment, and social media and news systems, circular economy, and sustainability solutions. And I created this design based on all of my wisdom, experience, life experience. That was my hypothesis for Female Founders Lab. Are there founders who will fit into this design? And there were. And okay, are these founders good enough to be multi-unicorn ventures? And they are. And that's what I validated over the last like 3 years. And that's why I'm so confident raising the New Earth Fund, right? But the thing is, like, in order to create a new industry, in order to say like we're going to birth new industries, right? That's like no joke. So that will require billions of dollars.
Right.
So how exciting would it be to start with a venture fund, but then like, what does a true multi-stakeholder capital and resourcing ecosystem look like to bring these industries to life? And I think that's going to be super fun to chew on as I go through this venture capital journey.
Yeah, it sounded like what you did first was you created your theses for each of the industries and how that's going to evolve over time, and then you actually found founders already working on these things that just plugged into those really neatly, and then you're like, oh, well, there's actually a there. And then it's just starting to allocate capital across the board. And so just get the engine starting at the core, most basic level on each one of these. And then the other thing is how they all connect together. And then having some of that value creation captured by the LPs and all the participants in the network itself.
Correct. And then question 2 over the long run is, how do we unlock trillions of dollars for systems change in every country around the world? And that would require unlocking capital flow from retail investors at scale in a way where the capital is no longer locked up with just in these pension funds and few LP groups. But that would be a crazy thing to take on. I'm not taking that on right now. But
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It's like, if I'm paying a healthcare premium every month and it's ridiculously expensive, why doesn't that give me some piece of ownership in the thing that I'm putting money into? Like, duh. Like, this isn't rocket science. Like, hey, paying your healthcare premium, you do it with us instead of Geico or whomever. Like now you own a piece. It's like, well, which one am I going to choose? Well, probably the one where I own a piece, and I'm going to tell
I
my friends
love
about it.
that.
Like
That's very direct. I like that a lot.
it's human behavior. It's like, wait, I get 1 + 1 is 2. Okay. Like it's a cost turned into like a return.
And
Like
you see
count me in.
this quantum shifts in the industry, like crowdfunding legislation passed Obama like 2018. I want to say
Yeah.
it's like
Jobs Act.
4 years in with crowdfunding. I mean, equity crowdfunding.
Hmm.
So you're seeing massive shifts like in the capital landscape, in the industry landscape, and with founders. And I'm
Hmm.
here for that. I'm here for the intersection of those shifts.
I love it. That's a great way to end it. So where, I mean, I'll include things in the show notes and everybody, but like where should they go to talk to you? Like LinkedIn or like your website? Where should people go?
Yeah, I mean, so you can go to my LinkedIn is where I do more content. Otherwise, you can email me at Nilima at thefemalefounderslab.com if you want to
Okay.
email me as well.
Okay. So the femalefounderslab.com.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then I'll include links to both your LinkedIn and that in the show notes so people can get in touch and, we go save the world a little bit. Like make it a better place. Michael Jackson had it right. Let's just heal the world a little bit and yeah, make it a better place. I love it.
Yeah, you know what I actually believe is that we're not going to heal the world a little bit. I actually believe that all of these systems and structures are all going to collapse like Babylon. And
Hmm.
what will be left is the grounded new designs that we've been working on for 20 years or
Yeah.
however long it takes for the structure to collapse. And we'll already have been here doing it all the time. And everyone will just turn to that.
Yeah, just shift over. Yeah, the
Yeah.
major market shift.
So the whole thing can get healed.
Yeah, be ready for it. Build to where the puck is going to be, and that's where it's going to be. So it might just the duration is a little bit longer, but pensions are 30 years anyway, so that's well within the standard time frame. Cool. All right. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for the time. And yeah, I learned a ton of new stuff today, even after us talking for a while. So this has been fascinating. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed this so much. Thanks so much, Sean.
All right. Well, I'll shoot you a link. You can see if anything you want to chop out or edit. I haven't really had any problems with it. And then we can just publish it and we'll be off to the races.
Yep, sounds
All
good.
right. Cool. All right. Have a great day and great rest of your week. Happy
Okay.
2023.
Happy 2023.
All
Okay,
right. We'll talk to you
bye.
later. Bye.